G'day guys, welcome to the SC Playbook podcast. I'm your host Tim Williams. We are recording we're now in the back third of November, so an early one. But the NRL draw was released this week. I had a good look into it. I looked at the Supercoach winners and losers out of it. It got me looking at a few eye catches for 2026 for my Supercoach team. Already locked in a few masks that will not be changing no matter what happens in the preseason. But yeah, just needed to scratch a little bit of an off-season itch in November and talk a bit of NRL Supercoach as well. So a nice little short, sharp potty to get us through as we lead into the Ashes, which starts tomorrow as well. And guys, while we are here, the new NRL, I should say, the new content at SC Playbook is absolutely flying off the wall. But if you haven't tuned in since the end of the NRL Supercoach season a couple of months ago, now we have, what do we got? We've expanded to NFL, EPL, NBA. Our cricket stuff is ramping up as well. So guys, if you're into any of those sports, we have podcasts for each and every one of those sports, some absolute guns on board. So go and check them out, like the cricket, like the NRL, like all of them. They're all across their own networks now. We didn't want to cluster it through that one podcast, podcast, YouTube, Spotify feed, and all that. So if you are into any of those sports and playing Supercoach, then go and check out the podcast, the cricket as well, as I mentioned, ramping up too. NRL update as well. We're going to do a bit more off-season content this year. We're going to start rolling out a few more podcasts, this being the first of the off-season. A few articles are up on site at scplaybook.com.au, including some subscription content, which is going to start rolling out more as well. I'm going to start with my team previews and squad previews for Supercoach pretty shortly. On today's show, though, what I'm going to touch on a couple of things. I'm going to look at the 2026 NRL draw, the winners and the losers, the clubs out of that, and the players impacted accordingly from the 2026 draw release. And then I'm going to have a look at the 2026 eye catches. It's essentially the guys that have caught my eye that they're coming back from injury, so they're getting a reduction in price. They're players with new roles. They might have regained the kicking duties perhaps. There's a heap on this list, so I'm going to go through those as well. And again, just as I said, scratch that NRL Supercoach itch late on in November if you are keen to cast your eye towards it as well, because we will have the NRL Supercoach team picker. That will open up generally about mid-December as well. So keep an eye out for that one, and we'll roll out some more content leading into it. I'm going to start, though, with the draw. So the winners and losers were relatively clear to me in this one, at least the top couple. And we'll start with the winners. The big winners from the draw for me, and how I've done this, I've looked at the first 5 games of the season, and you can check it out. I've got a full article on site at scplaybook.com.au, but based on the first 5 rounds of the year, and I've broken it up into who teams face based on top 4 last year, top 8 last year, bottom 8, bottom 4, who has the maximum games against the best finishing sides, the worst finishing sides, etc. So relatively self-explanatory. Of course, it's not going to be perfect. There's going to be big improvers. There are going to be teams from the top 8 last year that we're expecting a potential regression from. So, like a Parramatta Eels, for example, who were a little bit down the ladder last year. We know how well they finished the season. Probably going to be a team on the up, but for the most part, we do know who the stronger and weaker sides will be. So I've based it off that one. The big winners: the Storm, the Bulldogs, the Dolphins, the Cowboys, the Tigers, and the Titans. The Doggies, their first 4 games of the season, unfortunately, they've got a bye in round 2, which is not ideal. However, I think we've come to learn in recent years that a bye, particularly early on in the season, not the end of the world. And to be honest, if you're looking at getting a gun from a team that has a bye in round 1, 2, or 3, it can often keep people away from it. So you'll often get them potentially in like pod range as a result of that. So again, not the worst thing in the world. A little early season bye, granted, not ideal. But the Doggies, what have they got? Start the season with, first 4 games, they faced just one top 8 club, 3 teams that finished in the bottom 4. That is for them clashes. So they've got the Dragons in round 1. That's in Vegas. Then they have the round 2 bye. They then have the Raiders away in Canberra. That's a toughie. The Knights at home in Sydney. Then they have the Bunnies, also at a core stadium, technically an away game. So it's a pretty damn good draw to start the season for the Doggies. The Cowboys, they've got the best draw, I think, pretty clearly. Probably should have started with them, didn't. That's all right. They faced just one top 8 club and 3 opponents that finished in the bottom 4 last season. They start with the Knights. That's also obviously in Vegas as well. They then come back to a game at Leichhardt Oval against the Tigers. They then are at home to the Titans, at home to the Melbourne Storm. Keeping in mind the Melbourne Storm will be missing guys like Ryan Pappenhausen. Obviously, they had devastating news around Eliesa Katoa, who won't play in 2026. So absolutely crossing their fingers and toes and praying for the big fella and hoping that he's okay and that we see him back on the deck, the footy field in the future, but more importantly, that he's okay moving forward, Ellie. But yes, the Melbourne Storm in Townsville, that is round 4, and then the Dragons down at Jubilee Oval in Sydney in round 5. So there's a few away games there, to be fair, but 2 of the 5 at home. Then they've got the neutral in Vegas against the Knights. So a really, really good draw for the Cowboys. So the big winners from these teams, in my eyes, that I've sort of jotted down: Jacob Kiraz, Harry Grant, Cam Munster, Jerome Hughes, Scott Drinkwater, Herbie Farnworth, Terrell May. Round 1 bye for the Tigers. Do note that one. That will make Terrell May an interesting one to start the season at top dollar as well, especially he just got through so many minutes last year because they needed him. A few reinforcements this year. Maybe Benji plays him a few less minutes. So a big watch on Terrell leading into the Supercoach season. Jaden Campbell and Keanu Kinney, who we'll be talking about later in the 2026 eye catchers. In terms of the losers, there's one key team that lost out in the draw in my eyes. And when I say this, again, the first 5 rounds, guys, I haven't gone past that too deep because I'm looking through my round 1 Supercoach focus with this one. It's the Penrith Panthers. So they have 4 clubs from the top 8, including 2 that finished in the top 2. They start their season against the defending premiers, the Brisbane Broncos, at Suncorp Stadium. They then go into the Sharks. That is, it's a home game, but it's in Bathurst at Carrington Park against the Sharkies, so that's pretty neutral. The Sydney Roosters, that is away at Allianz. The Parramatta Eels, who should be vastly improved, at least that's I think probably the common belief among the NRL community, myself included. And then they play the Melbourne Storm in Sydney at CommBank. Even like the Eels one there, it's at CommBank. That's a freaking Parramatta home game, essentially. So, yeah, still no Penrith Panthers Stadium for the Penny Panthers this year. So, as I said, what do we have? Broncos, Sharks, Roosters, Eels, Storm. That then goes into the Doggies in round 6, who were top 4 last year. The Dolphins round 7. That is up in Darwin, tough conditions. The Dolphins, another big improver in my eyes this year. I think they make the top 8. So, yeah, they're the main ones. The biggest losers out of the other sides, the Raiders, the Sharks, the Warriors, the Eels, and the Knights on my list. So the key players impacted by this in Supercoach include Nathan Cleary, Dylan Edwards, Brian To'o, Hudson Young, Nico Hines, Blake Brayley, Roger Tavasashek, Mitch Moses, and Kalen Ponga. The really interesting one there, guys, Nathan Cleary and Nico Hines, because the other factor in this is that we know, and we'll talk heaps about this in preseason, I'm actually really looking forward to getting some data around starts to season for players and teams and historically and all sorts of things in Supercoach, because they always just start slower. You don't get these big 150-plus scores. You know, teams aren't playing with injuries. They're not fatigued. Defenses stand up. Attacks are clunky. So Nathan Cleary and Nico Hines, with really tough draws to start the season. I think the Sharkies do have a fair few home games from memory, so maybe it's not brutal, but the halfback spot, it's going to be an interesting one to start the 2026 Supercoach season. Now, what have we got? Let's get into a few of the 2026 eye catchers for me. And I've listed them as these 3 as potential must. First one, Big David Fifita. So move to the Rabbitohs under Wayne Bennett. I genuinely believe that Wayne Bennett will get Dave Fifita back to Origin football. I think he can do it this year. Realistically, though, coming off a series win, new club, etc., maybe 2027 is the year for Dave Fifita, but coming off a 50-point average last season in just 48 minutes per game. That is down from averages of 77 and 85 in the years prior. Provided Dave Fifita goes there, he's switched on, the attitude's right, he's fit, he's healthy, and he starts in round 1 on the edge for the South Sydney Rabbitohs, he will be in my Supercoach team. To be honest, if he has a big preseason and he does look fit and healthy, even off the bench, at around 500K, I've got him listed as estimated. He'll probably be in my team. All the prices on this are, of course, estimated at the moment because Supercoach has not launched. The way I basically do that, for those interested in doing it as well before the team picker comes out, I basically look at what these players averaged last season, and then I go and look at, I order on the Supercoach website by 0 games played, and then I go down and have a look at what these players started the season at last year. So I'd find like a player similar to David Fifita who averaged around 50 points and what their starting price was. And that can sort of ballpark what these players will start at in 2026. It's not going to be exact. There are lots of different aspects that come into it, but it does give us a bit of a guide of what they will start at next season. Where it does get a little bit tricky, like guys on my list coming up. So the next one is, of course, Cameron Murray. But Cam Murray, having just played one game, 21 minutes, there's a lot of discretion that goes into the overlords over at Supercoach headquarters, Tommy Sangster and the team. Don't blame Tommy Sangster because there's a lot more that goes into it than Tommy Sangster. But yeah, when there are limited games played, they can bring in factors like, all right, how good was the player before the injury? What were they averaging? We're not going to base Cam Murray, obviously, off an average of 20 or whatever it was from one game. So these factors do come into it. So you need, ideally, like a sample size of about 7 or 8 games plus from a player like Dave Fifita to get a more accurate indication. But again, guys, it's November. It's only a guide. Cameron Murray, $480,000. As I said, one game in 21 minutes last season. Guys, he's a Supercoach gun. I know I am an absolute out-and-out fanboy of him, but I love the bloke. And the big factor in Cam Murray coming back from injury is that he did play. He recovered through the entirety of last season, got on the field in the final game, so he's going to be fit and firing and ready to rock at 100%, you would imagine, barring any preseason niggles or anything. So, yeah, Cam Murray, look, at 480-odd K. Another one who will be in my team, Keanu Kinney. He's a very interesting one. And what is interesting about him is what will they price him at? I've got him at 440K. I'm not sure exactly what they will go with because he averaged 45 points last year. He played 6 games at the back end of last year. A lot of them were off the bench. So he's a tricky one, and how they go about pricing him, I hope they don't make him too cheap because he'll just be in every team in round one. He averaged 72 points per game in 2024. So, look, I've got him basically down as anything sub 600K, which he probably should be. He'll be in my team. Well, he'll probably be in my team. If he's sub 500K, like I've got him and what I think he'll probably be, having played limited time off the bench last year, he will be in 100% team. So I actually hope they price him more 550 to 600 and make it a little bit more difficult and a few options to go maybe with other guns or cheapies. But if he is around that 440K, lock and load. Now, guys, I was absolutely rocked to the core on a chilly Monday morning earlier this year. I woke up to the start of the working week, my phone absolutely popping off. Every account I had just about had been changed. Passwords, couldn't get access to any of them. Email had been hacked. My mobile number was stolen. This all happened mid-Bloke in a Bar podcast. So it happened as I woke up, really started popping off during the Bloke in a Bar podcast, took a little pause. But yeah, I had cards changed, all sorts of things, pretty much anything you can imagine. I was sent like a ton of these threats about financial demands, what I needed to do to get access back and all these sorts of stuff. It was awful. It is easily avoidable. Guys, NordVPN is here to let you live stress-free. It provides you with privacy online, leaving no digital footprint by hiding your IP address. So essentially, it's like wearing an invisibility cloak online, protecting your data whilst traveling and using public Wi-Fi. Also a big one, NordVPN protects you wherever you are in the world. It's premium cyber security for the price of a cup of coffee per month. So to get the best discount off your NordVPN plan, go to nordvpn.com/SC Playbook. Our link gives you 4 extra months on the 2-year plan. There is zero risk as well, guys. 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the podcast episode description box. Otherwise, just flick us a message on social media and I can shoot that to you. Trust me, guys, it was an absolute freaking nightmare. Do not put yourself in my shoes and screw up like I did. Go on, get to the best, NordVPN. All right, guys, strong buys for next season. This is where there's a lot of big preseason watches. How do these guys' clubs look? How do these players look? But Mitchell Moses at 560K. Zach Lomax departing, whether it's to R360 or wherever. He's not going to be at the Parramatta Eels. That's all that matters for Mitch Moses. Supercoach prospects should get the goal kicking back, one would imagine. Averaged 56 points last season, down immensely on previous seasons due to injury interruption. Obviously, the no goal kicking with Lomax coming. It was down from previous seasons of 64, 68, and 70 seasons prior. There's no Dylan Brown this year. There'll be Jonah Pezzett next to him, a rookie half. So, look, he could get even more dominant. I mean, it's there for all to see. He's coming into the prime of his career. Mitch Moses playing the best footy that I've seen him play ever. He's been dominant whenever he has been on the field at all levels. So, yeah, as I said, with Nathan Cleary, Nico Hines on tough draws to start the season. The Eels, not easy either, but I do think they were big improvers. And I think Mitchy Moses could be a nice little early season stepping stone to Nathan Cleary, who's hopefully at a reduced rate at about round 4 or 5, a bloke I'm really considering starting with. Latrell Mitchell, 630K. As always, guys, pre-season watch with Latrell. How does he come back? Fit, firing. He normally looks the goods, or he has in recent years. Certainly under Wayne Bennett. If you can get Latrell at 630, I think that's a bargain. I think you just do it. They do have an early buy, which is a bit annoying, but not too bad. As I said earlier on, 64-point average last season. Years prior, he averaged 89, 77, 85, and 82. So it was clearly an enormous down year for Latrell for a bunch of different reasons. He played centre, he played 5'8". The Bunnies were absolutely injury-riddled the entire year. So, if they keep half their players on deck, Latrell stays fit, he's 800K in no time at all. So Latrell, a bloke I'm very, very keen on. And, at this stage, pending how things play out, every chance of a Kinney and Latrell Mitchell round 1 fullback combination. Brendan Piakura, $300,000, the premiership winner. Look, you sit there and go, we have this chat every preseason. It never works out. It ends in pain. But look, he averaged 31 points last season. That was due to mixed form, due to injury, due to all sorts of things. The reality is he ended up as an 80-minute premiership-winning back rower. If you can get that starting the defending premiers with attacking upside, which Brendan Piakura has, his base is pretty poor, pretty hard to ignore, even with the red flags that are there. So if he's 300K fit starting, he'll be in my team, I think. Cody Walker, $410,000 now. There would have a lot of people that have a sick pit in their stomach, the deep depth, hearing me even mention Cody Walker. Another bloke I'm just such a big fan of. And look, I'm probably being a bit generous. What do we categorise this one as? A strong buy. This is provided that Cody Walker gets through the preseason fit, plays a couple of trial games, gets through minutes, moves well, because it's around that 400K mark, 410K mark. It's very cheap for a guy coming into hopefully a fully fit Rabbitohs outfit that have so many attacking weapons in there and points in them that he can work around and work with as the chief playmaker, alongside Latrell, I suppose. Age is the issue. Injury is, of course, the issue. But like prior to last year where he missed a bunch of games, he'd been pretty durable leading into that. So hopefully it was just 1 year. Hopefully he's injury-free this year, certainly to start the season. And even in the games that he did play last year, he looked good. He's still lethal. He can still attack. So at 400K, you don't even necessarily need to start him. He can just be a bench 5'8" and see how it goes and see how the Bunnies go. But he will be one of the biggest preseason watchers for me. Two easy ones here, Ethan Sanders and Jonah Pezzett. I've got them at around about that 240K mark. They'll probably be at mid 200K, I think. So limited game time last year, Pezzett off the bench as well for a lot of it. So these guys, especially if they can get any dual position, that dual half at 5'8", we're probably all going to be starting with 1 to 2 of these guys in our team. Every chance it will be both. They're probably going to go down. I think Sanders will be halfback only. Pezzett, he could get dual 5'8" halfback for sure, especially if it's Moses wearing the 7. So Pezzett, I reckon, will get the dual, so he could be the one there. The next on my list, guys, role watchers. Now, these guys, not saying they're going to be in my team, but if they get the right role for round 1, there are blokes coming back from injury, so if they're looking the goods in preseason, they start at just a really good price. The first one, my boy Heila Maluki at $400,000. Such a talent, but just cannot take a trick when it comes to injuries. Is Heila Maluki, but yeah, if he gets through preseason well and looks the goods and he looks set for 80 minutes or even 60 to 80 minutes early on in the season at 400K, I just love this bloke. And that Cowboys draw at the start of the year, that's a big one as well. 400K mark, if he does start around about that, it is a bit of an awkward price, so we'll see. But again, a big preseason watch. One here, Talon De Silva, 250K. I suspect him and Riley Smith will share hooking duties as they did at the back end of last year. If Talon De Silva does get a starting role by himself and doesn't have a hooker on the bench, I don't think it'll happen, but it's funny how they've gone about that, the Eels, with their signing of Talon De Silva with Riley Smith there. I don't know how it'll all work out, but obviously if you were to start round 1 with Riley Smith in Cup, Talon De Silva would be a great buy, but probably a bit to play out for that one to eventuate. Bailey Hayward, another one in that cheapy hooker role. He'll be likely dual hooker to RF. Not a bloke that you'd necessarily want to be playing each week, but just in the reserve hooking spot. Took over from Reid Marnie at the back end of last year when Marnie was dropped. Marnie's obviously moved on this season. Bailey Hayward touted as the starting 9, the future at the club. Personally, I'm not convinced he's a 9. I think he's a 13 and a gun bench utility, but the doggies seem to have put faith in him as a 9, and they know a hell of a lot more than I do. So if you've got Bailey Hayward, who's playing 60 to 80 minutes, he doesn't score overly well. So you would want probably an 80-minute role, but at around 300k, dual position, a plug as your reserve hooker, looks the goods to me. Jacob Halengahu, interesting where they'll price him, but should be around about maybe the 380k mark. Dragons, edge back rower, whether he starts on the edge, middle, comes off the bench. The likelihood that he probably comes off the bench, but he's a serious talent. If he does get good minutes and starts round 1 or even off the bench and, they have a bench utility or the dual hookers, whatever it might be, he'll be a genuine option. I think he'll be a buy at some stage next year. It'll just be a matter of when. Latu Finu, 390k, he'd probably have to displace, not probably, he'd have to displace Adam Dewey in the halves and push Dewey to another role, whether that's lock, centre, who knows. But if Latu Finu was to start for the Tigers next season at around that 390k mark, probably be another one where I'm not going to pick him over like a 230k Pizzette or like a Ethan Sanders, but I do think he's a guy that you can, if he does start at 5'8", you can pick him. I think he's a relatively reliable play because he runs a fair bit, bust tackles, offloads. He's a great footballer. So again, another preseason monitor, and as I said, just as much around the role of Adam Dewey. And the lucky last on this list, Suafa-Alongo at about $560,000 to start the 2026 season. Ryan Pappenhausen gone from the Storm. We expect Fa'alongo to start at fullback for the Storm. Absolutely electric. This kid's so exciting to watch. The big one will be Supercoach-wise, because he's that awkward 560k price. What position do they give him? Is he dual CT dub fullback? Because if he gets dual and he's available at CT dub, he will be in my team. I suspect he probably will. I don't know which way they'll go, but played so much on the wing last year, and they've got Nick Mean who can play fullback as well, and will probably spend time there in preseason. So I reckon he will get dual, in which case Fa'alongo he'll be a bloke I'm willing to gamble on in my starting team at CT Dub. If he's available at fullback only, less convinced. Granted, I do think he'll probably be starting undervalued. That'll do us, guys, for some early fixture analysis, 2026 eye catches. Hopefully that scratched that little bit of a Supercoach NRL itch for you. As I said, we have expanded into all these different sports. NFL, we've got our cricket rolling, NBA, EPL, gun teams, podcasts, articles on site. So go and check those out. Follow along with those pages. More NRL content to come in the back end of November, early December. So keep an eye out for that. And for now, enjoy the Ashes.